Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard. Live Alternative Parties podcast.
Hi, how are you?
Not too bad. How are you doing today?
Doing really well.
Excellent. Friends, today we have a guest, Chelsea Rustad from the Socialist Party in Puget Sound, and she's going to talk all about her party today and the exciting things they're doing. So welcome aboard. Let's get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, my name's Chelsea Rustad, and I've been a lifelong Washingtonian. I was born in Tacoma, grew up in Federal Way, went to school in Ellensburg, and I've been in Tumwater ever since, which is right by the Capitol in Olympia. And the Puget Sound area is sort of, it includes multiple counties. I'm in Thurston County right now. It also goes through Pierce and King County. So it's a pretty big region where we have the Puget Sound water bodies. So that's kind of where the name comes from. And our local chapter, the Puget Sound Socialist Party, was created in 2017 as a local of the Socialist Party USA. So that's kind of how that came about. And anyone who is in the counties that are included in our region can join. There's several that are listed on our website and Facebook page. So we cover that whole greater Puget Sound area. And our goal as a party is to offer an alternative to the capitalist duopoly that typically dominates the ballot box and the campaigns that we see in the area. Usually it's Democrats and Republicans. You might see some other third parties on there like Libertarians or Green Party as well. We've also worked with local Green Party in the past because some of the local chapters are more explicitly eco-socialist, and a lot of our policies are aligned and we have similar goals. So we have a working eco-socialist coalition that we formed to and joined each other's parties to be supportive of each other there as well. So there's some overlap with the local Green Party. But yeah, so that's kind of the direction that we've been headed as of late. Want people to feel like we can work towards a little bit more left unity because the left is very sectarian and very splintered. And I think that's a shame because I think that there's a lot of intelligent and well-meaning people on the left who could use our resources collectively to accomplish a lot of good for ourselves and for each other and our communities, if only we could find it within ourselves to work together, find our commonalities, and build that solidarity on our common foundation. So that's just kind of the stump speech, if you will.
Sounds good. So what are some campaigns and issues that your party is working on in your area?
So to an extent, because of COVID-19, our party, and I'm sure everyone else as well, has had campaigning a little bit sidelined by the limitations with that, which is unfortunate because just because there's, COVID-19 is happening, but people are still interested in politics and they want to be engaged and they want to run for office. But a lot of times people don't feel safe necessarily going out to canvass in the streets and knock on people's doors and chat with strangers, and with the previous election cycle, we didn't even have the vaccine yet available and people could wear masks, but people felt like they were kind of putting themselves at a risk there. So, the last campaign that we ran was Johnny Mead for Olympia City Council, and he's a member of our local, but we weren't able to do as extensive as of campaign support as we normally might have, again, because of the limitations with canvassing and not being able to do as many in-person events. Some of the local events that we might have attended to support a campaign, such as May Day parade and things like that were canceled. They just didn't happen. So it's harder to get the word out. It's not impossible, but because we are a smaller party, we just don't have the same resources as others do. And I think there's a common understanding amongst anybody, regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, that oftentimes money simply does play a huge role in your ability to get the word out, to have mailers, to participate in events which charge a lot of money up front for to be included in the proceedings. You can attend candidate forums and things like that, but that's an option. But so yeah, we just haven't had as much activity in terms of recent campaigns and anything like that. That was the most recent one, but we're always looking for an opportunity to where if there is going to be an opening for a seat, say a local city council seat or something of that nature, if someone is interested in running, or if we know of a good candidate who we'd like to endorse and provide their support, candidates can seek endorsement with the form, the standard form on our website, and fill out that questionnaire the same way, any candidate running for office typically fills out dozens of these endorsement request forms from all the different orgs and individuals and parties that they're interested in seeking services and support from. So they can do that. They can reach out to our website and fill that out. And our goal with that is to really determine if they are aligned with our views, which is in building independent socialist goals and a real independent socialist party that's separate entirely from what the Democrats are up to. They have a little bit of a contingent going on where they like to co-opt the term socialism and claim that they have even socialist members of the party, that they have the squad, but ultimately they typically vote the same way as all the Democrats. They're getting paid the same millions of dollars to by the same lobbyists and donors and all of these folks, and you can't change a monster from the inside. So we need to we really want to stress that message that it's not that these things are impossible. It's not that we can't achieve a better world and help people on a broader scale. We just can't use the Democratic Party to do that. So hopefully that's what we can, the way that we can set ourselves apart is to build up this alternative that I know that there's interest in and people want to see other possibilities outside of the Democrats and Republicans, but it's hard for some people to make that leap to go there if there's not already this strong third party presence. But we have to build it first. We have to, if they want it to be stronger and viable and have that path to making change, they got to. I hope that they'll decide to look at our platform and see where we have agreements and consider joining and supporting that movement. It is a people powered working class movement, and definitely can't grow without more people making that effort to decide that they're really going to make that hard break with the Democrats and Republicans or whichever capitalist-oriented party they may have been aligned with or supportive of in the past, and just go a different direction.
So some people out there might have a misconception about socialism. So can you kindly define socialism, if that's not too hard of a question to our
Sure.
audience?
No, I think that's a very important question, especially in this country. Ever since 2016 and the Bernie Sanders phenomenon, there was a lot of renewed interest in conversations about socialism openly, and that's good. It kind of became more mainstream, and there's more interest. But the only trouble with that is once you look past the surface statements that Bernie was making about how democratic socialism is when you are just like Norway and the Scandinavian countries, and you give people health care and you use your taxes for, to let people go to college and stuff. I think that people were really quick and eager to latch on to that, myself included, because we do want those things. And the United States is one of the only what we would consider, Western country or first world countries that doesn't offer those things as a right to its citizens. So they hear that and they're like, yeah, like what's so hard about that? That's, democratic socialism, that's a different flavor. That's a different kind. That's the one I want. But as you read theory and learn a little bit more about, the true meaning of what is socialism, it really emerges as something very distinct from social democracy, which is the style of economy that Norway and the countries that Bernie would be referencing in his speeches. That's what they really have. It's more of a welfare capitalism, an improved, friendlier, smiling capitalism with a better safety net. Because what socialism really is, and the bare bones definition broken down as defined by the people who created it, it is nothing more than worker control of the means of production. And if you don't have that, it can't be called any kind of socialism. Whatever you want to, however you want to soften it or rough, take away what they think are the rough edges. If people have universal health care and they can go to higher education, attend college without fees as a right, that's great. Those are things that should be part of a socialist program. But I think that the mistake that we make is people don't look farther than that, and they think that in itself is socialism, or they even think, well, the military is socialism, and the libraries and the cops and anything the government does, anything your taxes pay for, that's socialism. And that's where we were really getting into the weeds. And that's very confusing because it's really contradictory to talk about, like to ever imply that something that would be traditionally seen by any of the left, not just socialists, communists, anarchists, would agree that the military is not socialist and the cops are not a socialist institution. They're oppressive to the working class, and the military is an imperialist body that could be perceived as interfering and aggressively overthrowing democratically elected leaders in other countries, especially Latin America and things like that. That's not a socialist outlook. That's not a socialist program ever. That it could never be construed that way. So when we just sort of uncritically say, yeah, so military socialist, so if you support the military, you're already socialist. Like they're well-meaning when they say that and they make those arguments, but they're really promoting a really ahistorical view of socialism that's not founded in theory or in a Marxist outlook. So we want to focus on what is it really? What is socialism? We're the capitalist American mindset is very intent on alienating the worker, and to the point that they're not aware of their relationship of the means of production. And it's so complete that this country is a perfect example of, we can't even define socialism. We don't understand what the means of production are. And in a socialist economy, it is the workers who would control the means of production in their own workplace. We would have that democratic control. By definition, when the workers run it, it's democratic. So all socialism would be democratic. Somebody is going to own the means of production wherever it is you work, whether you work for, in any given industry, in the private sector. It could be a different scale. There may be lots of bosses. There may be a lot of corporate investors, but somebody owns that and decides where those profits go. And so if it's not the workers that are producing that labor value, that are receiving the full extent of that labor value, it's going somewhere else. That by definition, those profits are the expropriated surplus labor value created by the workers. And the profits are going to somebody who didn't do that work in the factory or in the office. And so that person, the CEO who owns the company, who owns the means of production, can decide, I'm going to pay myself $1 billion and I'm going to pay you guys minimum wage. And that is ensuring that we don't get a say in our own workplace. It's not fair to talk about, we want a democracy for the working class and we want to be able to have a say in how our lives are run. But the place where you spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you don't get a say. in how that company is run and how it operates and who ultimately controls the operation of the company and where the money goes. That, you know, that's the main contradiction that we have. And as socialists, we want to empower the working class through unions and through organization to ultimately have control over their own workplace and to receive the full fruits of their labor that they created. It's not about getting free stuff. It's not about the government paying you things that you paid with your taxes. You know, again, getting Medicare, getting free college. Those are good. We're not against that. We want those things to happen, but unless the workers control the means of production, we don't. We got 0% socialism. We got none. We're not even close. We're not halfway there, and I believe, you know, the Democrats are really invested in making sure that, you know, these are a bunch of millionaires for the most part. They don't want that system to end. They are explicitly capitalist party. They say, Nancy Pelosi will say, you know, socialism is not ascendant in the Democratic Party. And even the things that they do claim to support, like universal health care, for instance, it's in their platform. And they nominate a presidential candidate who doesn't support universal health care and said that he would veto it if he, you know, they don't even support the things that you know, when you have the common misunderstanding of socialism that, like, oh, it's universal health care, they don't even support that. On no level could the Democratic Party be construed as a socialist party on any, like, it's not going there. They don't have any members who are supporting it. And when you say, oh, I'm going to join them and change from the inside, why not just join an already socialist party that explicitly calls for worker control as the goal of all of our organizing and all of our efforts? That's comprised of working class people, not these sort of like bourgeois elites who get millions of dollars on their book tours and speaking engagements, talking to their rich corporate donors in the military industrial complex, cutting deals and making laws that get them paid and perpetuate endless war. That's not something that you can participate in on any ethical level and claim, I'm representing the people, I'm representing the working class. Like, they're not doing that. They are harming people all across the world, and they are taking taxes from the working class in this country and using them to fund, you know, $300 million a year in a day in Afghanistan for a 20-year war that has now failed and accomplished nothing. You know, that's what the Democratic Party and the Republicans have to offer. They're both on board with this. We need to really look in drastic different directions. And I feel like you can't take something that corrupt and entrenched and just bloated with people with this old, outdated mode of thinking, who are making just insane amounts of money off of their capitalist outlook. Of course, they don't want to part with it. They don't want to change it, no matter what they say or what they post on Twitter saying, oh, it should be unacceptable for anyone to be in student loan debt. And then they never pass any laws to change it. That's why it's so critical to organize outside of that entirely and divorce ourselves from the mindset that Democrats have anything to offer when, you know, they're in power right now. They've got it all. They own the White House. They have a majority in the Senate and the House. They could pass by numbers, you know, anything they wanted. They have a Democratic VP tiebreaker in Congress. So this is the thing that they say, oh, you get the blue wave and you can get whatever you want. Why don't we have it then? Why haven't they canceled student loan debt? Why haven't they given people universal health care during a pandemic? Because they don't want to. You know, it's always the most obvious answer that we never want to see. Oh, there must be an explanation. Yeah, I mean, there is an explanation. It's the most obvious one. They don't want to. They're not interested. And people are so desperate to not see that they'll come up with every excuse in the world about Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin's a Democrat. You know, I don't want to hear it. These are the people that they say you vote blue no matter who, and then they tell you, well, it's Joe Manchin. What are you going to do? And you're all you do is spin your tires and go in circles all day and waste your time and waste your life arguing with people. And if it seems hopeless to build a third party outside of that, it doesn't seem anywhere near as hopeless to me as trying to work within the confines of an explicitly oppressive, capitalist, racist, sexist party that made a rapist president. And I mean Joe Biden and Trump before him too. They're all just, I don't know. There's no redemption across the board for these people in my eyes. I can't get behind them. I refuse. And people with integrity, we got to look elsewhere.
That's music to our ears. We love to hear that. So I got a practical question for you.
Sure.
So for people who are members of your party and who support your views, how do the socialism work in the daily life? And let me give you an example. Let's say I wash windows. That's my skill. So I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to work for myself. So how would I do that without becoming an exploiter myself?
Well, it's a complicated question because I think that one of the understandings that most socialists have is there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, right? So this is what we mention when people, they try to get you in this, they try to corner you and say, oh, if you're so socialist, why are you using an iPhone? And, like, what does that be like? As if to say that if while you live in this capitalist country, how dare you purchase things or support a company that is a capitalist company or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what the argument is that they're making, but it seems to be like if you participate in this capitalist economy and you exist here, and while identifying as a socialist, then you're being a hypocrite. And I think that I didn't choose to be born here, and a lot of people, they're just here by fate, right? They ended up in the United States because probably they were born here and they have to make a living. And I think that we have some degree of control over, where we end up. I think that some people have less of a say than others. You might happen to have been born to wealthy parents and they set you up with this amazing job and you can just kind of call the shots and do whatever you want. Or you may have been born in an underprivileged community and not had access to those types of resources, didn't get to go to college, maybe ended up forced down a different route, doing whatever skills you may have been available to you. Again, you still have agency as an individual. You can still try to pursue a path that aligns with your personal morals. But, for instance, if I know somebody that was laid off during the pandemic and they're struggling and they're looking for work and then finally they get a job and it's at Amazon. Well, do we all hate Amazon? Yes. Like, I hate Jeff Bezos. He treats his workers terribly. They're union busters. They make their warehouse workers pee in a bottle. Yeah, across the board, we hate Amazon. But do I have a personal problem with an individual trying to pay their bills by getting the job that they can? No. If they want support and they're like, man, I'm trying to find anything else better than this. Does anyone have, could you be my reference? Do you know of any jobs in the area? Then I would support them 100%. I'll try and make a suggestion or oh, here's a course you can take and the certificate will let you get this job or, whatever it is you can do. But I will withhold any judgment towards people that they feel the need to buy their food from Walmart because it's cheaper there and that's what they could afford. It doesn't mean I approve of Walmart or their business practices or the way they treat their employees. Certainly not. I support working class people doing what they need to do to survive and pay their bills. When so many people are living paycheck to paycheck, they're experiencing housing insecurity. They're worried about the eviction moratorium and all this stuff. And the last thing they need is some socialists or anybody saying, well, you can't work here or you can't purchase this product or you're a bad person. Now again, I'm not going to say that absolves you from ever thinking critically about where you choose to spend your money or where you choose to spend your time. If you have the financial freedom and flexibility to choose where you shop or where you work, and you're in that position to be a little bit more choosy, that's great. Of course, I prefer to spend my money and work for a company where I feel like our values are more aligned. But ultimately, I mean, I feel like it's almost unavoidable that somewhere in at that company there's going to be a rotten CEO, and there's definitely workers being exploited and not getting the full value of their labor. And even if it's something I don't even know about, I can just kind of assume, living under a capitalist economy, that's how they operate. That's why they're making their billions, because it's these low paid minimum wage workers generating all the value for them and not getting properly compensated. And I'm not happy about it, but the alternative, what's the alternative? They're like, if you don't like it, just move to what my ideal socialist utopia country that doesn't really exist. I think that the responsible thing to do is to try to work to change the community that we live in here, and not try and expect the go away somewhere for the world to solve my problems. We gotta address the problems here at home, and that constant struggle, that working class struggle, is what brings about changes and makes people's lives better now. And it takes a long time. It doesn't happen overnight, and it is not peaceful either. The reason we have the weekend, the reason we don't have workers locked in the factory anymore, that's because communists and anarchists made the ultimate sacrifice and were murdered by, cops and Pinkertons and bosses trying to dominate and control their lives. And people had the, they had the wherewithal to fight back and say, we demand better for ourselves. We want to have a say in how our work is done, and we want to have a quality of life. But you have to fight and struggle for it, because they will never just hand it over. So it's a tall order. It's a lot to ask people. They don't want to hear that. They want to be told, hey, you can just check this box on the ballot for one of these big mainstream parties, and you're good. That's it. You did the right thing. Maybe send a donation through Vote Blue. You did it. Like, work is done. You're a hero. You did your civic duty. And I hate to say that if it's that easy, whatever you're being sold is like, wow, it turns out that the best thing to do in life was the easiest thing to do. Like, maybe we should question that a little bit. Maybe we should wonder if that's actually a path that benefits somebody who's making a ton of money. And I know it's not us. I know it's not the working class making a ton of money. When does it ever come back to us? When does that truly benefit the working class people who make this country run? And we could put our tools down today, and the whole operation of capitalism would grind to a halt, because we are the ones with that power to create products and offer services. And we need to step into that power and organize collectively, but it is easier said than done. And I'm not gonna judge anybody for not quite seeing that yet. Capitalism works round the clock through the media to instill messaging to us. They give us shows about billionaires and MTV Cribs and My Super Sweet 16, and they say this is what you should aspire to be. You being rich rules. If you're not rich, you're just jealous. You should be like Elon Musk. He's a cool genius billionaire, and that is what dominates the airwaves and the silver screen and the small screen. Is these constant messages about you can be rags to riches and you can do all this, and so fighting against a lifetime of that type of messaging being imprinted on you is hard, and we got to give people grace, but at the same time we're running out of time too. Climate crisis isn't going to wait forever, and you got people on the verge of eviction and homelessness because their needs are not being addressed in this country, even though we have the working class people significantly outnumber the CEOs and the ruling class. And if only we could find a way to build the power we have. We're not outnumbered. We're just out organized. And I hope that more people will understand that the socialists are not the people trying to get free stuff from you. They're not trying to undermine you or take what's yours. We want to give you everything that is yours. It's the working people who deserve everything they create, and we have to really vocally demand that on a regular basis.
So basically, you believe we should see what we can do in our individual lives, and it varies from person to person based on circumstance, and do what you can, yet not judge other people for their predicament in implementing socialism in their daily life.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I think if somebody is doing the best to their ability, to work and strive towards a world that is equitable for all, where we do have that worker control, where we have democracy in the workplace, that's great, and I commend them for their services. But I just also want to get away from the very individualist mindset that America promotes, that, well, here's what you do to solve the climate crisis. You use less water and you recycle your plastic bags, and you try not to waste. They make it sound like that's going to make a difference against the constant, insane amounts of pollution and carbon output from a handful of like 100 companies that are doing like 80% of it. And they're like, yeah, that's all you can just do all this, and you've done your part. But then, like, number wise, it's like nothing. It's like statistically you did nothing. We have to change things on a systemic level to see any meaningful difference. And it's the same with this. Again, that doesn't mean it's free license to say, hey, I'll just go and freely indulge in supporting the worst countries or the worst companies on the planet because oh, I mean, there's no ethical consumption anyway. But if we find ourselves in a position where we can choose, it would be nice to try to support, for instance, union companies and union products and co-ops and things like that. I understand not everyone has that opportunity, especially people that live in rural, isolated areas. They don't have a lot of choices necessarily. They don't have the means to pick and choose which company they go and get their products from or buy their groceries from. So I get it. But so being mindful of those things, while also understanding that these are human beings and that were put here in this country, and they didn't choose where they were born, and they got to make a living somehow. They got to make those ends meet and pay their bills. I don't condemn them or look down on them for if they need to buy their groceries at Walmart because it's what they could afford. That's what they needed to do. And I do not condemn that individual for doing what works for them.
So here's a question. Earlier you mentioned how you viewed it as unfortunate that the left can splinter and get into factions. So
Yeah.
with your party, since like most parties, you have elections for various positions, how
Mhm.
do the party have races that are innately competitive to maintain the cohesiveness of the party?
Well, I think that one of the things that makes that issue less of an issue is that there's so little socialist, like real socialist candidates on offer, that I've never, at least so far, I haven't ever found myself in a position of, oh no, we're going to run against another socialist within our own party or even from another party. It's like, I ran for office in 2017 for Tumwater City Council, and I did that because otherwise there wasn't going to be a socialist on the whole ballot for any position. And I just thought, wow, that's sad. Like, that's the only options people have is one or the other for the capitalist parties, and that's it. And so that would be an amazing problem to have if we were just like, man, there's so many socialist candidates on this ballot. I don't even know which one to choose. You can just like pick the best one and not lose either way. But it's rare to do that or to see that happen because they don't have the resources and the support and the numbers to do that. And I think that if there were multiple people in the same region who are interested in a position, typically leftist groups are in touch with each other, and we can work together, and we could maybe work to build a slate of candidates for various positions, so they're not competing against each other, but they're all saying, hey, this is the socialist and anarchist and communist and whatever supported slate of candidates, and we're all working together and supporting each other, running for different positions in this region that are available, and let's all support our candidates. Now, you wouldn't really see an anarchist running for a position, but that's just an example. So, like, for instance, our ability to work with the Green Party, and they can support our candidates and we can support theirs because we have that alignment, and we formed an eco-socialist Green Federation with members in both parties, that now, instead of competing against them, we can share our resources and combine that what power we do have to organize accordingly, and hopefully give people more options than just, well, here's the standard guy that's entrenched in this position that's been in there for years, and that's all you can even pick from. So not that electoral politics are the end all and be all of everything. I go back and forth on it, on whether it's even a useful path or a good use of people's valuable time and money, because it costs so much to run for even one of these positions. I heard that there's people running for Olympic.
I'm sorry.
There, but yeah.
Yeah, you're back now. So yeah, it's good now. Kindly
Oh,
continue.
okay. Yeah, I was just saying that I was looking at some of the numbers for the Olympia City Council candidates this year, and the type of money they were raising and spending, and you'd be looking at $30,000 to $50,000 for one seat in one race in the Olympia City Council. And I'm like, what if we just spent that money in the community? What if instead of electing this person that might sort of possibly do something to help you or vote a certain way and say that they did, what if you can actually just take that money and directly support the community, do some mutual aid, organize to meet the community's needs for whatever it may be. Do they need PPE? Do they need community medical care? Do they, whatever it is, do we need like a food not bombs setup? Do we need the really free market? Like, we could use our resources and organize for that and instantly meet people's needs today. And I think there's value in that. Again, it's not, to say that electoral politics is useless, but man, they just throw up every roadblock imaginable to make it hard to be part of that. The Democrats filed lawsuits in multiple states to keep the Green Party candidate Howie Hawkins off the ballot and kick him off the ballot and make sure you don't even have the choice to find out who he is and learn more about him. And Howie was also the endorsed Socialist Party candidate. So it's just like, you will be subverted and sabotaged at every turn taking that path. And these are things we can all weigh and talk about together. And I think the more that the left organizers recognize our common goals, and I don't want to compete with any of them. I want to find our common ground. And I have found that it's not too hard to be diplomatic with the various diverse groups out there, because there's a lot of commonalities, as much as there's left book infighting and all of that insufferable sort of back and I want to look for our commonalities and find ways to set that aside and focus on what matters, because people's lives do hang in the balance, and there is valuable work that can be done and resources that could be distributed in a more efficient way if we are organized.
So some people make a distinction between socialism and communism. Do you find that distinction an important one to make, or is it just going in the details that you don't need to worry about?
I think that it's always valuable to be as informed as possible about the meanings of terms, just especially in this country, because the term socialism has been so diluted and degraded and like meaning the opposite of what it ever meant. Like, yeah, socialism is when you vote for capitalists and when you support the military. I'm just like, whoa, how did we get here? And so those distinctions are important to make when we define social democracy, socialism, and communism. I could, if I woke up tomorrow, I might just start saying I'm a communist just because the difference is negligible to me at this point. But if you're a baby leftist, or you're a person who's not a leftist and you want to understand the distinction, I think it's important to break those down a little bit more. Socialism, as we talked about before, being the worker control of the means of production, and communism being more the establishment of a classless, moneyless society that's based on those socialist principles. So, and of course, it takes a lot of, it's more than I could just, there's more nuance than I could just elaborate in a quick 5-second soundbite. I think it's always valuable to read theory or to be exposed to theory. There's audiobooks, there's videos, there's some decent videos and intros out there on the internet these days. You could find them for just about anything. And so there are good resources to learn more about that distinction. But for my purposes, if somebody comes to me and says I'm a socialist, or I'm a communist, I'm an anarchist, whatever, what I hear is that is a left person that I can work with. And we have common goals. We might have different views of how do we get there? What would it look like? There's going to be different views there, difference of opinions, and that's good. We should hash out what those would look like. But for all intents and purposes, there's not a huge enough distinction for me between socialism and communism for me to say, oh, they're so vastly different, or I couldn't work with a communist. I could. My main thing is can we be totally independent from capitalist parties? The Communist Party in the U.S., they identified as communists, and then what they used to do all the time would be to just endorse the Democrats and say go vote for the Democrat. That's how we're going to do harm reduction. And I'm like, what's the point of having a communist party? Just go join the Democrats at that point. If you're not running your own candidates, or you're not even endorsing distinctly anti-capitalist candidates, that's not communist. So even if you say you're communist, again, I really want to learn more about, I need to learn more about the specific details of what is their policy? What do they support? Are they explicitly anti-capitalist? Do they promote workers controlling the means of production? Are we really talking about revolution or just mild reforms? Are we talking about entryism, which is just going through the Democratic Party, trying to change them, going through all the proper avenues, whatever that means, right? The really ineffective, controlled opposition that accomplishes nothing and only serves to feed you back into the Democratic Party and take all the air out of the room and make sure that revolutionary socialism and communism goes nowhere. So that's, even if somebody does identify as a communist, if we need to know that we have these basic views in alignment, the anti-capitalist pro-worker outlook that's really going to set us apart from the traditional Democratic Party line.
So you've been mentioning theory and the importance of reading theory. What theory do you recommend people read?
Yeah, well, the most obvious ones for me would be, reading Karl Marx and the Communist Manifesto. And people, they might hear communism and, oh, that's scary, but socialism as well. The theories of socialism are defined as with a Marxist underpinning as well. So getting back to those basics is important, because these are the people who really defined these concepts. Bernie Sanders didn't invent socialism. He doesn't get to define it and say socialism is when you have healthcare. And we got to, in order to get to the basics there, going and read the Communist Manifesto. You could read writings by Eugene Debs. He was a candidate who ran for president multiple times under the Socialist Party banner, which is the same Socialist Party that we belong to today. His speeches and his writings are invaluable in really elucidating what democratic socialism means for working class people and how it's organized and what it isn't, so that people get more of a clear understanding of what it's intended to accomplish. The more we water it down and say, oh, it's just when you get healthcare, then we could just stop there. And what if we got healthcare? Oh, we did it. We achieved socialism. But, we got to reach further than that. And if we have a really well-defined historical foundation for what socialism means. You can go out there and you can get lots of free resources in like the online Marxist library, uh, and just read pretty much as to your heart's content. Like so many good PDFs and entire volumes are available. You could read Lenin, you could read, and I think it's important to also be exposed to ideologies that you might not necessarily subscribe to. Like there are different tendencies within socialism. Some people are ML, some people are Trots, some people, excuse me, don't consider themselves necessarily one or the other. And they might say, like, you know, no Marxist Leninists in the Socialist Party USA, but you should still be aware of what Lenin was saying in his writings and the way he approached socialism and what that meant to him and how they accomplished it in their view in the Soviet Union, and why has communism been so demonized here? Why, you know, because it's real socialism and communism that they're scared of. They're not, you know, universal healthcare. Maybe it will happen here decades down the road. The U.S. does everything after everything else, but if we get that, we won't have socialism. It's real socialism that they're scared of. It's worker control that they don't want, because once they get that, it's game over for the you know, the billionaire boys club. So it's the any way that people can find to consume theory that's comfortable for them. Audiobooks, YouTube videos, uh, real physical copies of books, they're all good. And reading Marx, reading Lenin, reading Eugene Debs, reading Engels, those are good places to start for sure.
All right. So how can our audience support you, your efforts, and your party?
Yeah, well, of course, if you happen to live in Washington and you're in that Puget Sound area in the regions that we cover, of course, we would invite you, you know, to join the party. If you feel that your views are aligned with the Socialist Party USA platform and you don't feel like you're represented um, by the Democratic Party or any of the other mainstream parties on offer, then, you know, we'd really invite you to take a look at uh, the Socialist Party USA national website and read the platform and learn more about it. And if you want to join, then that's where you would go, is the Socialist Party USA website, and there's a join link on there. If you don't have, you know, you don't have to pay membership dues if you have a financial limitation. They have waivers for that, so don't feel like, you know, oh, I can't afford to join or something like that. There's different tiers, so that people can join at a level that's comfortable for them. Um, and we would love to have you. We also have a Discord server where if you have questions about theory or about socialism and or about what our party's up to in local elections and things like that, we have the PSSP Discord server. And whether you're a member of a party or any socialist party or not, you're welcome to just hop on and come chat with us and ask questions and learn more that way. We've got good folks that are they're friendly, and we drop memes and entertain ourselves, but also it's a good place to learn more and brush up on what's going on with local politics and with socialism in general. So that's another way. Other than that, I think we have a store as well if people want to buy Socialist Party, for instance, like a shirt. There's a Socialist Party logo shirt. Then we have an online shop, and so that would be a way to, if they wanted to support and they wanted to get a cool shirt, then that would be a good thing to do. But yeah, and we also have a Facebook page and a Twitter, so feel free to follow those and just it will give you an idea of, you know, what our views are, what we're up to lately, and a way to participate in social media if that's a, you know, whichever platform you prefer to use. Hopefully there's a way you can connect that way. So yeah, I think that would probably be the best way to go.
Excellent. So for those who are not familiar with Discord, if you go to, how do they find you? What is there a handle they type in, or how does that work?
Yeah, let me let's see. It is called the channel. I have a an invite link, and so what is the best way to do that? I've been sharing the link on our social media pages so that people can just click the link and join. But let's see if it has an actual. Man, I'm not super well versed with finding ways to just share it because I thought that they have to go through the link, but anyone can click the link, anyone can join. It's not like private or anything like that. But
Okay.
and it's called Puget Sound Socialist Party. Um, and if you ever have trouble finding it, I'll try and share it more regularly on our Facebook page. You can always message the PSSP Facebook and ask for that, and I'll share the link with you. It should be on Twitter as well. But yeah, it should be out there and visible to anyone who would be interested in checking it out.
Excellent. So they can find that basically by going to your social media pages and just click on the link and they'll get there. They don't have to worry about
Yeah.
any handle.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. Sounds good. So we thank you for your time today, sharing your views and giving us important information.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to share today. I really appreciate it.
Have yourself a wonderful day and all the best to you and your party.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Bye now.